Let's Science is brought to you by the StarQuest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give.
3, 2, 1.
We live in a universe of scientific wonders.
Every day, scientists are inching towards breakthroughs which can change our lives.
We're playing our small part in sharing these wonders with you.
That's why today is a fine day for science.
So let's science.
So Caroline, today you are going to tell us about a very strange and weird topic, but a cool one, zombie spiders. Caroline, over to you.
Yes, don't we all love spiders? Hands up. You love spiders? Why hands are not half a one from Lino?
Sort of.
Little. Okay, all right.
Yeah,
Okay.
I have a rule.
Well, you're going to love these.
You're going to love democracy.
I have a rule, okay, about when it comes to spiders, and Caroline, I know how you feel about spiders and looking after them. So I will, because of you and our sister Marilyn, and now our mother. If there's a spider in the house, I will do everything I can to gently get it out of the house and
very good.
Onto the front yard where maybe the birds will eat it. Who knows? But, all right, mate, we'll see. Give
but I'll put a fighting chance.
Yeah. Give it a fighting chance. Yeah. The only one caveat I have to that rule is if it's on my skin. Whatever happens to it, then I'm sorry.
I agree
but
there. I do agree.
Okay, that's because I will. If it's on my skin, I will do the spider dance, and the spider may die. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. Well, I think these fungus will be on your side, because they are creating zombie spiders, and the spiders don't end up very well out of it. So let's just find out why that is, and you might end up liking this article in the end. So
I love a good fungus. Yep.
So
I know.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're such fungus guys.
Spiders and fungi today. So there is a newly discovered fungus that has been found on spiders that inhabit a gunpowder storeroom on the grounds of Castle Espy in Northern Ireland. It was actually discovered in 2021 by members of the BBC nature documentary TV series called Winter Watch. Since then, scientists have analysed the fungus and found that it hadn't been discovered before. So it has been given the name Gibellula attenborough. So it's named after Sir David Attenborough.
Yep.
And the findings were published in the journal, listen to this journal, Fungal Systematics and Evolution. And this was published on January 24th this year.
You're a nobody if you haven't read that journal, I'm just saying.
I think it would be really good. Fungus are great. Fungi are great, honestly.
Yeah.
So now, since the fungus was found, more examples have been found and discovered in other cave systems in Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland.
Wow.
Now, this spider was initially found hosting the fungus after the fungus had killed it. It was an orb-weaving cave spider named Metallina Mariani, and since then other species of cave spiders have also been found with the fungus inhabiting their bodies, such as Metamenardi. You can look up these spiders. They're pretty cute if you like spiders.
Can I just say, I'm glad this is an audio podcast, because the faces I'm making right now, involuntary
I can see both
reflex.
of your faces.
What is this?
Look, I'm getting interested in this. It's that interesting. It's just I just feel about the poor spiders.
You've managed to make people feel sorry for spiders, Caroline.
That is my job. Okay, it's my aim in life. So these spiders do usually inhabit caves, but also dark human-made spaces, such as the storeroom where they were found dead and being lived on by this fungus. So cave spiders, just a brief rundown, such as these two species mentioned, have adapted to living in caves and other dimly lit locations such as burrows and hollow trees. They also prefer to live in areas of high humidity, which so do fungi, which makes sense because they live in the same area. So they typically produce an orb web and they do that to catch their prey. So usually these spiders like to conceal themselves in burrows or webs. However, the infected spiders, those that have been got fungus all over them, that originally found infected with the fungus were exposed on the ceiling of the gunpowder storeroom, and subsequent spiders were found on roofs and walls of caves. So instead of being hidden, for some reason, they were found out of their, natural kind of habitat.
Mm-hmm.
So the researchers who have studied the spiders and the fungus think that the fungus was able to alter the behavior of the spiders so that they would go out into the open and eventually be able to disperse the fungus spores, which would help it reproduce.
I've seen this movie before. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
And probably there have been a few games and movies and things based on spiders being taken over by something or other.
Yeah, one article, now I actually haven't played this, but one article references The Last of Us, which is apparently a game. I know it's a PlayStation game, Lily, you know more about this than I do, but it has to do with people being taken over by zombie viruses and things like that.
So it can happen.
Yeah,
so
it can happen. Yes,
it happens.
Yes,
And just a very short biology lesson for those who are interested in fungi. So, just to help you understand how this process might happen, fungi reproduce by producing tiny microscopic spores that land on surfaces and then create new fungal colonies by mitosis. So it's just a cell division, and then the cycle goes on. So new spores, new fungus comes up, that fungus makes new spores, etc. If you ever get to see fungi close up in a microscope, which I recommend if you can do it, you'll definitely see them in a different light. So when we see them growing on something, you see a fungus growing on an orange or whatever, they look fluffy and some people say gross. I don't know those people. But when you see them up close...
I am one of those people.
They can look so beautiful when you actually see them up close in a microscope.
Yeah.
Some look like flowers, resemble kind of a flowering body, and also all sorts of interesting structures. And I know this because I've done the experiment myself. And I highly encourage looking up fungal spores on Google, and you will see what I mean. I'm not making this up. So it's thought that these fungi are able to influence the behavior of the spiders after evolving over time with the spider, since they've been living together in the same space for such a long time. And the fungus somehow is learning or has learned how to take advantage of the cave spiders. So the process of infection of the spider with the fungus involves the G. attenborough spores penetrating the spider through its hemocoel, which is the main body cavity that contains the spider's circulatory system. The spider is then influenced to leave the area it usually inhabits. So little mold spores, the little fungus is inside the spider and it influences the spider.
That's a polite way of saying forced, but yeah.
That's it. Once the spider gets to where the fungus wants it, it produces a toxin to kill the spider host. The fungus is then clever enough to produce antibiotics, which preserve the corpse and mummifies it. This leaves the remains of the spider as a yummy meal for the fungus as it absorbs all its nutrients. The fungus then uses the spider as a base where it can begin to grow into its fluffy form and produce lots of spores and disperses them into the rest of the cave so new fungi can grow and look for more spider hosts. Now, as cool as that all is, and it's pretty
that's
cool.
Not cool at all.
It's cool, okay?
I'm sorry. I'm on the fence on here. It is totally incredible and really scary, but in the middle, it's like
nature.
Wow, this is like an.
Sorry.
It's nature.
I'm sorry, but Catholic social teaching. Catholic social teaching is putting me on Team Spider right now. I'm sorry. That's just nasty.
Well, that's not a bad thing. Anyway.
That's nasty. Just as once.
Well,
yeah. Now, as I was saying, as
they
cool
can go
as
on my
it
skin.
is,
I'll let them go. All right, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay. Researchers in the study note that they want to highlight the potential for human medicines from antibiotics
yes,
that the fungus produces. So there's a good thing that comes out of this. It's not just learning about the cool, fungus taking over the spider thing, because the fungus do produce antibiotics. Now, as we know, penicillin was actually found by accident. When in 1928, Alexander Fleming noticed mold growing in a petri dish next to Staphylococcus bacteria that he was growing, and it was preventing the bacteria from growing and moving on. So the penicillin became actually a lifesaver for so many people when it came to bacterial infections.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so this kind of research of environmental fungi can also lead to the production of other such antibiotic medicines, especially as bacteria seem to be becoming more resistant to penicillin due to overprescription, etc. So, yes, it's cool. The biology of it is amazing, but there's also practical implications out of this. So, there's quite a few aspects out of fungi killing spiders.
Totally
so there you go.
Yeah. I
Wow.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think whose side I'm on here. Yeah. But it does remind me of that, of a version of that joke, why was the spider so cool at parties? Because he was a fungi. Yeah, there you are. Yeah.
Fungi?
Yeah, that's
I feel
kind of
bad
perfect
telling that joke. I feel so sorry for the spiders. Yeah.
That is so understandable, Caroline, about the trying to find the
antibiotic.
Is it an antidote?
So the fungi naturally do. They create antibiotics. So bacteria don't basically take over where they're living. So they own the space basically. And but that's something that, as I mentioned, Alexander Fleming, when he was growing staphylococci in a dish that he was researching, he found penicillin growing next to it, and for some reason the bacteria were the bacteria were moving back, so they were dying off near where the penicillin was, and that's because the penicillin was secreting these antibiotics. And through his perseverance of trying to find out what's going on here, he actually found a medicine that's really useful for humans, and if he hadn't found it, I mean, it would have taken longer to find something like this that kills bacteria. And simple bacterial infections can kill,
Yes, that's right.
If they get out of hand. We take it for granted that we can just go to the doctor, get a prescription for antibiotics, but it has come out of a lot of research. And now that there are there's the golden staph, like MRSA, that is resistant to our normal antibiotics these days. It's very hard to kill off. And for example, when you go to the doctor, it might take longer for you to get over something with antibiotics, because the bacteria is starting to kind of evolve over time and get stronger. And every time you take it, it affects your body as well, affects your gut bacteria, all the rest of it. So it's not. But the thing is, the more kinds of antibiotics we can find, we don't need to rely just on penicillin. And then we've got other methods of fighting off bacterial infection in our body and on our body, and things like that. So it's really important that people are noticing stuff like this. So, going into a cave and going, oh, look, I mean, that team, the TV team who went out, the documentary team went and had a look and found spiders with fungi growing on them. And then researchers came along and actually investigated and that's really where it comes from. So, if you ever see anything strange in nature, how cool would it be to get it investigated and, maybe something good can come out of it.
I just hope, hopefully, but almost so fun. Covered in fungi.
Yeah. Just the
then you get
just the spiders.
after that.
I mean. Maybe the fungus, it's helping us in some ways. If it, I wouldn't mind if it moved to mosquitoes or something. I'd be okay with that. Flies,
I actually did a research project with my lecturer all those years ago, and there is a fungus. I think it was in the Philippines that grows underneath plants in the natural habitat there that does kill mosquitoes.
Thank you for your service, Fungi. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I get some of that for my plants? Yeah.
Yeah. So he was trying to kind of research and see if anything can come out of that as well, using maybe those spores to kill mosquitoes. So there's so much. Fungi is amazing. Like, it's helpful. It can hinder, it can help. Just like bacteria, there's good bacteria for us. There's bacteria that harms us, So, it's nothing's good or nothing's bad. It's just there. It's just how it affects the body, etc.
You might not know the answer to this question, but I'll throw it out anyway. So going back to the spiders for a second, and I'm being serious, I'm not joking, right? So the fungus, when it infects the spider, it kind of coerces it to go outside. So once it embalms the spider and kills it, it's no longer controlling the movement of the spider, is it? So it's dead and it feeds on it from that point. Is that how it works? Yeah.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. So whatever mechanism it uses, it manages to get the spider to move to whatever location it wants, more out in the open, so that once the mold grows, it can spread its spores. Yeah. But yes, the spider has to die for it to be able to feed on it. Yeah. So at that point, that's when the toxin is released and the poor spider dies, and it keeps it preserved there so that it can eat it itself. It's not going to share it with anybody else.
Yeah, I wonder how similar it is to, because there were experiments where they put microchips in, I think, cockroaches or insects, and were able to control some of their movements, almost like, I mean, it's pretty cruel, right? But like almost like a remote control kind of situation where they could control their movements.
I probably assume that's more of like an electrical impulse type thing.
That's right. Yeah. Because then I remember the team from the Mythbusters, who was the other? I forgot their names. Grant and Kerry. I think.
I know Andy.
Yeah, so but it was the other ones that would do other experiments. Why the other guys? Well, Adam and Jack were blowing stuff up. They do smaller ones. So they had a show. It was a show on Netflix, I think. They had like a follow-up show. It was just the three of them, and they experimented by hooking one of the guys up with electrodes, and he didn't know about it. Right? He didn't know. What it was going to do. They just put electrodes on him, and she said, let's have lunch together, and you don't know what's going to happen, but let's just have lunch. And she had like a little controller or something, and then just his arm would involuntarily flip. Oh,
that's amazing.
So she couldn't control, but he would suddenly, his arm would just flip, or do something, and he's like, he's like, how are you doing this?
That's cool.
Yeah, it was like, so she didn't have perfect control over his body, but it was based on these experiments on insects as well.
Right.
But it was using, you're right, it's using electrical impulses as well, Caroline.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah, and scary. Yeah.
And scary.
Cool.
So that could have implications for medicine down the track too, for like people who've lost movement, lost control over their body for some reason or another, and if you're able to fire up those impulses, perhaps they can learn to control those
wear a
limbs
device
or whatever
something,
that they can't anymore.
Whatever it might be that could help those muscles or whatever, the nerves, whatever.
Let's Science is brought to you by StarQuest Media and is a fortnightly podcast that brings you the scientific wonders of our universe from a distinctly Catholic point of view. For more from Caroline, Lindsay, and friends, listen to the StarQuest show, Catholics of Oz. Find links from today's show at sqpn.com/science and find the Catholics of Oz at sqpn.com/Oz. Be sure to follow the show in Apple Podcasts, Google Play, wherever you can find podcasts, or on the SQPN YouTube channel. The generous donations of our patrons at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue Let's Science and all the shows at StarQuest, which makes our nonprofit mission possible. You can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. Join us next time for more scientific wonders, and thank you for listening to Let's Science on StarQuest. Here's another show on the StarQuest network you're sure to enjoy, Jimmy Akin's Mysterious World. Find the show wherever fine podcasts are found or at sqpn.com/mysterious.